She is considered by millions to be the greatest symbol of compassion of the 20th century. A small woman in a white habit with blue stripes who gave up comfort to live among the poorest of the poor on the streets of Calcutta. In 1979, she received the Nobel Peace Prize. In 2016, she was canonized by Pope Francis and declared a saint by the Catholic Church. Her name became synonymous with pure goodness. Her image, a universal icon of love for others. But behind the serene smile and the simple habit, there are questions that very few have the courage to ask out loud. What was really happening inside the homes she ran? Where did the money go? Billions in donations received from around the world. Why did she embrace dictators and refuse to return money stolen from elderly victims? And why, while preaching to the world that suffering was a gift from God, was she herself living in secret spiritual collapse for decades? Today, the hidden face of Mother Teresa of Calcutta, the woman behind the myth the world refused to see. The girl who heard the voice of God. She was born Agnes Goncha Bojacu on August 26, 1910, in Skopje, in what is now North Macedonia. The daughter of a middle-class Albanian Catholic family, Agnes was devout and serious, and from an early age claimed to feel a calling to dedicate her life to God. At 18, she left her family, never to live with them again, and joined the Sisters of Loreto Order in Ireland. In 1929, she arrived in India as a teacher. For nearly 2 decades, she taught in Catholic schools in Calcutta, a city that concentrated some of the greatest pockets of misery on the planet. In 1946, during a train journey to a spiritual retreat, she described receiving a call within a call, a divine instruction to leave the convent and go live directly among the poor on the streets. In 1950, she founded the Missionaries of Charity with just 12 followers. The declared mission was moving, to care for the most abandoned, the sick without hope, those dying alone on the sidewalks of one of the world's most densely populated cities. In 1979, she received the Nobel Peace Prize. The Catholic Church had found its greatest human symbol at the precise moment it needed one most, shaken by scandals and a loss of influence in the West. The world had found its living saint, and it did not want to hear anything else. But what was happening inside the homes she ran was a story that no prize had managed to hide forever. The Houses of the Dying. In 1991, Robin Fox, editor of the British medical journal The Lancet, entered the home for dying destitutes in Calcutta and described with clinical precision what he found. The care was haphazard and unsystematic. Needles were reused after being rinsed with warm water. Tuberculosis patients shared space with uninfected ones. There was no distinction between the curable and the incurable. People who could have survived with proper treatment were left to their fate alongside those who were truly dying. Fox also documented the near-total absence of strong painkillers. The justification came from Mother Teresa herself that there was something beautiful in the poor accepting their suffering, sharing it with the passion of Christ. For her defenders, profound spirituality. For her critics, a theological justification for deliberate negligence. According to journalistic investigations and accounts from former volunteers, the money accumulated by the missionaries in bank accounts, some of them administered by the Vatican, was more than sufficient to build modern hospitals in Calcutta. The precarious conditions were not a financial limitation. They were, according to critics, a conscious theological choice. The goal was never to cure. It was to glorify suffering as the path to God. And to understand how that logic worked from the inside, you had to hear from someone who had lived within it for nearly a decade. The nun who left and spoke. Susan Shields spent nearly 10 years with the Missionaries of Charity before resigning in 1989. What she revealed shook the official narrative. The sisters would ask the dying whether they wanted a ticket to heaven. An affirmative answer was interpreted as consent for baptism. The sister would then pretend to cool the patient's forehead with a damp cloth while secretly baptizing them, quietly murmuring the necessary words. Secrecy was essential. Hindus and Muslims were being baptized without real knowledge in an India historically strained by religious conflict. The baptisms were not isolated acts by overly zealous sisters. The missionaries operated with near-mathematical conversion quotas. The nuns were encouraged to regularly record and report the number of souls saved, a spiritual assembly line applied systematically to people who were unconscious, delirious, or in agony, belonging to religions such as Hinduism and Islam, with no real capacity to consent to what was being done to them. Shields also described in disturbing detail the fate of the donations. She had personally processed donation receipts of up to $50,000, and yet the sisters continued to beg for supplies and reuse syringes. German magazine Stern revealed in 1991 that only 7% of donations received in England that year had been used for charitable purposes. Where did the rest go? The head of the British chapter responded, "Sorry, we cannot say. The organization never published a public audit. Billions of dollars, not a single line of accountability." But the financial secrets were only the surface, because something was happening inside Mother Teresa herself that no one had permission to know. The darkness. She hid from the world. In 2007, 10 years after Mother Teresa's death, the Vatican authorized the publication of the book, Come Be My Light. What was inside those pages shocked even her greatest admirers. The book revealed confidential letters written to her confessors and superiors over 50 years, letters that she had explicitly requested be destroyed after her death, and which the Church deliberately preserved. In those letters, the woman who told the world that suffering was a gift from God confessed in private to an absolute spiritual darkness. In one passage she wrote, "The place of God in my soul is blank. There is no God in me. When the pain of longing is so great, I just long for God. And then I feel He does not want me. He is not there." In another letter, she compared her inner darkness to hell and confessed to feeling like a hypocrite before the crowds that venerated her. For 50 years, nearly her entire public life, Mother Teresa lived what theologians call the dark night of the soul, a crisis of faith so profound she came to question the very existence of God. Meanwhile, she continued taking to stages, receiving awards, giving interviews, and teaching the world that suffering brought human beings closer to the divine. The woman who told others to accept their pain was living in spiritual collapse for decades, and she never said a word. The Church's defenders argued that this darkness was itself a form of elevated holiness. Critics saw something different. A woman trapped inside an image she could no longer sustain, serving an institution that needed her intact and silent. And while that silence was maintained at any cost, dictators and fraudsters were lining up to deposit money into her hands. The money of dictators and fraudsters. In 1980, at the height of her global fame, Mother Teresa traveled to Haiti, one of the poorest countries in the world, governed by the brutal dictatorship of Jean-Claude Duvalier, Baby Doc. Under his regime, tens of thousands of Haitians had been tortured, killed, or disappeared. The United Nations had formally accused the regime of crimes against humanity. She accepted a government medal and declared she had never seen a people so familiar with their head of state. She called the experience a beautiful lesson. Years later, Duvalier was overthrown and discovered to have embezzled hundreds of millions of dollars from the poorest state in the Western Hemisphere. The most documented and disturbing relationship involves Charles Keating, an American businessman who donated more than $1 million to the missionaries over the years and placed his private jet at Mother Teresa's disposal. That money had been stolen from more than 20,000 investors, many of them elderly people who lost their entire life savings in his fraud scheme. When convicted, the court requested the return of the money. Mother Teresa refused. In a letter to the judge, according to California court records, she said she knew nothing of the fraud. Prosecutor Paul Turley responded in writing, detailing the criminal origin of the money. He never received a reply. Mother Teresa also received donations from British publisher Robert Maxwell, who after his death was discovered to have embezzled 450 million British pounds from his employees' pension funds. The origin of the money was never questioned, but there was yet another dimension of her legacy that directly affected the lives of millions of women, and she exercised it with more force than almost anything else she did. In her Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech in 1979, broadcast live to the entire world, Mother Teresa declared that abortion was the greatest destroyer of peace today. Over decades, she used her political capital to aggressively lobby against family planning, contraceptives, and divorce, even in countries devastated by overpopulation and the HIV and AIDS epidemic. In 1995, she openly campaigned against a referendum that would have legalized divorce in Ireland. For critics, a woman venerated as a symbol of compassion for the poor was using her voice to block precisely the proven tools of structural poverty reduction. There is also a cruel irony that is rarely mentioned openly. In 1991, when her health collapsed, Mother Teresa did not go to one of the homes she herself ran. She was admitted to the Scripps Clinic in San Diego, one of the most modern institutions in the world, and received high-complexity medical care. The same medicine her homes denied to the poor of Calcutta. The same science that she, according to critics, advised her patients to replace with divine providence. The Scripps Clinic proudly mentions on its website that it saved Mother Teresa's life. The contrast did not go unnoticed by those who had documented the conditions in the homes she administered. And when she died 6 years later, the entire world wept without asking a single question. The legacy. The world prefers not to see. Mother Teresa died on September 5, 1997 in Calcutta. She was 87 years old. The entire world stopped to mourn her. Governments declared official mourning. The Pope wept in public. Lines of admirers formed on the other side of the world to pay tribute to a woman most had never personally met. Just 1 week earlier, Princess Diana had died in Paris, and both deaths filled the headlines simultaneously. It was impossible to question anything at that moment. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy of the machine that built her myth. It knew exactly when silence would be more powerful than any answer. The story of Mother Teresa is not a simple story of villainy. It is something more complex and, for that reason, more unsettling. It is the story of how the world desperately needs saints and how that need can be exploited by powerful institutions. It is the story of a woman who perhaps genuinely believed everything she preached, even while doubting everything in private, and who presided over decades of negligence, financial silence, and alliances with some of the worst men of her era. It is the story of how genuine kindness, systematic negligence, and the deepest doubt can coexist in the same person, under the same white habit with blue stripes, while the world applauds and no one asks the right questions. And it is a reminder that venerating without questioning is not faith, it is complicity. Now you know what lies behind the most untouchable icon of the 20th century. If this story surprised you, wait until you see what comes next. It's already on your screen. Click and watch. See you there.